It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hi there guys, back getting another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off the forearm here. This is peeling now. It's kind of halfway in between peeled and not peeled. I feel like as soon as I hit the shower tomorrow morning, that's probably gonna all flake off. Or at least a lot of it will. It's got that kind of dry shell-like texture to it, and parts of it are lifting all over the place, so that's a good indication that that's all going to be gone soon. So no problems healing that whatsoever. I didn't mention last time, but we actually did quite a bit in that session. It was about 3.5 hours of work, so quite a bit for Rick, but there is a lot more to do, obviously, but I think that the added black in there will really help all of the color kind of stand out now. Early on, when you're doing a color and black on black project, you do a black outline and some black shading early on, obviously, but later you can, once the color's in, you can go over that color with black and you'll get a more dynamic black than you would straight over the black. So say with the spider webs on my arm, which are holding in pretty good, even though we layered red over them. Yeah, so all of that was done over top of existing red layers that were done over black. So once you've colored the black red, it does take new black even better than it did originally. So there is value in creating more depth or adding new details with black over top of color that's been done on black. That's not to say that black on black doesn't work decently enough on its own, because it does. However, I recently had somebody reach out and ask me, they've been doing black on black specifically with their sleeve, and they were wondering if there's a way to get black on black to be fairly striking just on its own. And if you're looking for that, the answer is you're going to want to pair it with white. So in the negative of the black, you would then put white or an opaque, and that gives the black on black shapes and lines or shading quite a bit more structure and weight in the overall composition. Similarly, if you want an overall white on black tattoo, as I often say, it should be paired with black. Really the only thing that would change is the balance between light and dark. The difference would be you would have more white on black or potentially more black on black. But in a lot of the good versions of white on black that we see, it's almost always at least equal part black on black, and then highlighted or at least balanced with white on black to give the white strength in the composition. So you can do the same thing with a darker tattoo over black, but I don't really recommend, unless you want a very subtle result, I don't recommend straight up white on black or black on black. I recommend pairing them together. That's how you get things like my old rose sleeve or the neck roses I had, prior versions of the face roses. I actually don't have much straight up white and black on black left, but examples that I do have of it these days are my dog portrait on my right thigh, which is holding up very well, and the Nosferatu portrait on my left calf, which is mostly one pass, by the way. And it's holding up very, very well. We did do a little bit more work on that piece about a month and a half after we did it, but it was very clear in that session that the tattoo was still healing, and it had a pretty rough heal altogether, so it wasn't really that surprising that it needed a little more time to heal before we really got at it again. So I've given it basically a full year off, and that tattoo is looking very, very good, and the scar tissue is almost completely calmed down there now. So over the next few months at some point I will be getting into a proper second pass on Nosferatu, but if anything at all, it looks better than it did when it was newly healed, partly because the texture has kind of mellowed out of the scar tissue, and believe it or not, the white has come through more over time rather than the black coming through the white. So it's actually brighter than it was initially after it healed. That will sound like complete nonsense to some people, but that is the case, and I can prove it. With that said, I have a session finally coming up on my leg again here next week, so I'll be showing off an update on how my leg tattoos are all doing. I will be doing the final little details on my Mind Flayer tattoo from Alex. It'd probably be the last time she tattoos me here. Possibly I'll have another tattoo session with her, but it's looking like that might be the last one she does before she's extremely part-time in the industry, if at all, tattooing. So yeah, that'll be coming up next week. That was the session I thought I was going to be having this week, last week. It gets confusing sometimes. So yeah, we'll just be doing some white highlights and a little bit more texture in that guy. Not an overall third pass of the color. There won't be a whole lot more color to do. Maybe just some different tones to make some different texture, but that tattoo is basically finished at 2 passes. Now it just needs highlights. I will also, in a few weeks from now, be doing the second pass on the other tattoo that Ashlyn did on me, the mimic on my right leg, the back calf. That has only been done once, and it's been about 3.5 months since we did it. Something like that. And though it looks great, it's as faint as a first pass should be. So it needs extra love to be brought up to standard with the other ones. The other ones are all 2 passes or better down there now. I have nothing else. It's only 1 pass on my leg. So for every 1 leg tattoo I have, it's worth 2 to 3 that someone else has if you go by the amount of time that's been put into it. So even though I've only got something like, I don't even know how many I've got. I've got half of each leg probably done, at least in foreground images. But each of those is layers and layers. So eventually, when I get all the core images framed out, I will focus more on a background down there, much like I have up top. It'll probably be something similar to what you see on my shoulders in the end, but that'll take some time to get there. Shoulders/clavicle area. With all that said, obviously I had another session today. You'll have seen it on the thumbnail. I'm not going to waste too much more time getting into it, but I wanted to do the rose on the back of my head as well as the red, but we did about 3 hours of red work. That's what I'm calling it. It's close enough to black work with how much fucking red we're doing. That was probably enough color saturation for a day. Terry's very, very quick, but that's almost half of my head. I didn't actually remember how much fucking red was down there until we got working on it, and it was even more than he thought it was. So we could have done the rose, and I was game to do it, but Terry thought with how my skin was tightening up and swollen in the back, you'll see in the videos of it outside here when I put them in, it was pretty thick. I had a second neck in there, in his words. And so I find whenever you're tattooing a bend, say a wrist, an elbow, ditch, armpit, somewhere with a lot of movement, back of the neck, it kind of pisses off every area around it. And truth be told, I would be lying if I said that session felt nice. It was a pretty aggressive session. Not that I mind, really. It is what it is. Like, I'm not complaining. I never complain. I never even mention how it feels until after it's over. Then I tell people. The top of the head is far easier to sit for than the sides and lower parts of the head / the bend of the neck. However, it's not the worst either. It's just having done my whole head now pretty much over again this year, some parts of it several times. By far the worst part of it is the bend between the neck and the head. So the small of the neck there, in between the dome itself and the back of the neck is quite tender, and I will be happy not to have to go back into that. But with that said, we did not do the rose, so that will be lumped into another session that I have coming up here in a few weeks, where we will probably target the back of the head rose and the second pass on the face roses, which have only been done once in color. And during that session, I might do another pass of the blue in the forehead piece, because it's still a little bit more faint than I want it to be. But there'll be enough there for a session. And truth be told, I'm never really that upset about having to, you know, put it on another day, because with the pace I get tattooed, and if my skin's starting to swell up and get angry, I would rather not be getting saturated anyway. And I told Terry, don't leave it up to me, because I think he would have kept going. If I said, dude, I'm the guy, you blacked out my back twice, my full back twice. Don't leave it up to me. Because, like, I could sit here all fucking day. But if you're having to fight to get the color in there, then you're doing more damage than you need to be doing, and maybe it's time to pack it up for the day. So, he called it, and that was fine. With that said, I think that back of the head rose is probably only worth an hour's work. And the face and forehead stuff will probably take about an hour in conjunction, so it'll be a short session that day, but just a little longer than I'm rocking the bald, and maybe that's okay. Should take a little longer to appreciate the finished crown and the newly polished bright red on my head anyway, because honestly that's very bright. So I'll do a little spin here for you guys so I can show you what I've got here. So the head is very red now, so I brought new meaning to the term redhead, is what's happened. But it should stay very bright red this time, because all of that shit was done with Nebula Red, which is a dark red, and now it's all been gone over with or not Nebula Red, sorry, Red Velvet. Long day. And now that's all been gone over with Nebula Red, so again, the same red that we've used in my spider eyes and all these eyes on my torso and stuff. So a very bright red, which should stay very red. Whereas the old Red Velvet that I used for most of the early color on black is more of a purpley dark red. And that was a good direction for me to start all of this. I didn't really want to be super bright right away. I had to work into that. So again, it's not a situation of, don't you wish you had started that way? Well, no, because for one thing, runny nose. One thing, having the dark red base was a good base for the bright red to kind of lighten. So it was useful even just for that purpose. But also, with me, it's always just a growing comfort, right? So I was very black, then I went to darker colors to brighter colors, right? So, and who knows where that ends? Who knows how much brighter it goes, or if one day it goes back to black, or whatever the fuck you want to speculate. But for me, it's always a growing evolution, and I've enjoyed every part of the journey, so there are no regrets in this. It's just, I would say that for people looking to get into this, as I always say, the best route is not to just do white first or the other color first or whatever. It's to go in straight with the color you want, and that is the path of least resistance. Even though I've taken the scenic route, that's been because I enjoy being tattooed primarily, and I'm still having fun kind of learning and trying new things. Anyway, I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.